Now I want to introduce Professor Isabelle Peretz. Last but definitely not least. And this, Isabelle, is your second talk in our program, and it's really nice to have you back and now in this symposium. Professor Isabelle Peretz is a professor in psychology at Université de Montréal, Montreal in Canada, and she's also co-director of the International Laboratory of Brain, Music and Sound, called BRAMS, without an H, I think. As was mentioned earlier, we have an official agreement between BRAMS and the Karolinska Institute for future collaborations, and we are really looking forward to that. So describing her is that after her education in Brussels, she moved to Canada and has studied congenital and acquired musical disorders called amusia, as well as neurocognition of music, from perception, memory, and emotions, including also singing and dancing. She has received several awards, and the title of your presentation is "What is musical pleasure for brains that are out of tune?" Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, perfect. So it's really an honor to be here, back here, not in the same hall. This is really impressive. And at some point I was expecting to launch a new center, but I'm hoping it's going to be a center here on brain and culture soon, and that our close links with BRAMS will expand and flourish. Now, this being said, I will talk now. We will completely turn around and talk about people who don't have it. We have heard fantastic performers talk about expertise, prodigies, and I will turn to those who don't have it. But before I do that, I need to give you a few background information regarding what it is, musical pleasure first. And I was lucky to be here a year ago and got this. You'll hear in a moment. It's dancing, of course, but it is a nice illustration of the musical function that makes everything so pleasurable. And also at the same time, it's extremely sophisticated because these people need to synchronize to the beat of the music, and which is regular in music. And to extract this kind of information, it is extremely complex, as well as to extract and to track pitch differences and changes considering the tonality regularities. But of course, we don't think about all that. We just enjoy the activity like these people, this group, I should say. Is the sound loud enough? So this is, and also not only it gives pleasure in regular ways, but it is also capable of evoking strong emotions, like we heard goosebumps, shivers down the spine. And this is why perhaps music is used as a medicine, as a mood enhancer, as a source of pleasure without any side effects, and for mood regulation. And this is a journal that is focusing really on the interventions with music and medicine. Music as a medicine, in fact. And this is a study I like to cite when I'm referring to the pleasure of music. This was a study done with 1,000 students in Montreal. And of course, the first preoccupation they had were related to success and grades. Then traveling and romance. But after that comes music, before food, before money, before anything else. So it just to give you the value, how much value we give to music. And this has been recently shown by my colleague and friend Robert Zachary, who is co-directing BRAMS, and who has being responsible for those seminal studies showing that really when you enjoy, you have chills, or you really want to buy a piece of music. That's what they did in these later studies. They used they simulate an iTunes in the scanner, in the sense that they give an fixed amount of money to the subjects who had to decide how much money they would give to each piece, and they could leave the scanner with the pieces they wanted most. And so they had to bid, actually, on each piece. And as you can see, it is quite realistic with iTunes. It's from $0 to $2. And if you want to listen to their top hit, they are students, of course.
Will my face give me away? I know it won't, 'cause I don't even feel. I just reflect what you'd expect, so you don't suspect that I could be exactly who.
And so on. I won't play the worst one because it fits more my taste, but I didn't participate to that study. And what you can see that the activity in the nucleus accumbens in the striatum, which is part of the limbic system, got more active the more money they were willing to pay for that piece of music. And this is the region that produces dopamine, and it has been shown by the same group of scientists and published in Nature Neuroscience in 2011 that it is associated to a release of dopamine in that same region when you get chills. That is the music that gives you most pleasure. And it is like food, cocaine, sex, and money, and chocolate, actually, for those who love chocolate. And these are really the brain structures that are associated to highly pleasurable experiences. Now, music can also do something else, as some of you may remember. This is a classical movie, Psychos, and it's not the picture, but when you add the music, and we were interested to study that dark side of music, that is the one that will create tension and suspense and even fear. So for that purpose, we created musical clips on which everyone agreed it was conveying that kind of emotions. And we were inspired by soundtracks of movies. It was unfamiliar but conventional at the same time. And the king of this kind of music that can evoke strong emotions is really Walt Disney. For all the parents among you and all the children you were, this really evokes something that you do remember. These are very short clips. And of course, for the sad one, but as you saw before, you don't need the image to have the emotion. It is really the music that will convey the emotion, not the image. And so we created clips. I mean, they are not as good as what Disney produced because we wanted to have control over those clips. And so they are written for piano, but they are computer generated. And with the intention to express happiness. Now sadness. scary or and peacefulness is more neutral, if you like. And those scripts are available on our website. So what we have shown is that this kind of music could show that in certain pathologies that we move the amygdala, it prevents them from perceiving the scary clips. So here I just wish to show you where the amygdala is, this structure, and we were talking about the nucleus accumbens, which is in these regions of the brain. All this is the limbic system, really the part that we are sharing with animals. And it's well known that the amygdala is associated to fear or anxiety. And we were lucky enough to test the patient SM, for example, who is very well known in the US, to have bilateral removal of destruction of the amygdala, and patients with unilateral removal of the amygdala. And what they show is a selective deficit of the recognition of scary music. And what was even more interesting is that they confound the two with the peaceful music you heard. It was not due to a perceptual disorder. So it was illustrating how specific a disorder of musical emotion can be to one emotion that is the scary, the fear-inducing music. So we have here two kind of emotional responses. One normal, that would be to fear-related response. The other one was the pleasurable response. And now we're going to learn a little more about the relation between the two. But what I want to stress here that really music can act on the brain like other socially and biologically important stimuli. And also I'd like to stress that emotional responses can be variable, yes, but they can also, they are not random and they are really constrained by our biology. And this is why accidents of nature, like the ones who don't have it, are so interesting. So let me talk about something I really never thought it would exist, and it was not discovered in my lab, but in Barcelona. It's music anhedonia, and I let her reveal her case, and you can have access to that case on YouTube. It's stunning. So she's explaining the fact that she doesn't get any pleasure from music, but she's recognizing processing music normally. So
I took voice lessons for 3 years, and so I've been in choir and all those things, and I started playing the ukulele in March. So I understand like what goes into music and all the effort that goes into it, and it allows me to connect with people and stuff, but I don't sit and listen to it on my own and stuff. So it's kind of more of a social thing than it is a personal thing for me. I listen to it and understand.
And the next one.
So when did I realize I had music anhedonia? Probably, there were 2 different periods of realization. When I was in elementary school, that was probably one of the times when I started realizing, you know, music wasn't exactly doing something for me like it was for others. But I would talk with people about it, and they'd say, oh, you just haven't found the right music, or I'm sure something will hit you later, or, you know, here, try this. And just with the responses and stuff, I started to kind of like not say that anymore, and it was a little easier to pretend, which...
So it's really an unexpected failure to derive normal pleasure from music. For me, everyone has, but except the cases I will describe later on. It is specific to music, That is, they could compare to, I mean, in the study I'm referring to, they compare to the value of making money, and they have, I mean, physiological responses to earning money as normals do, but regarding music, they have no physiological responses at all. And they have normal processing of music, as she was explaining, and normal recognition of the basic musical emotions. Actually, they use the musical clips I was presenting before, and they recognize the emotions from those clips easily. So it's really selective to pleasure. And the idea now, it is related to disrupted connectivity between the striatum that you have seen and the auditory cortex and the inferior frontal cortex. I will come back to this issue of disconnection or reduced connectivity in that circuit. Now I'll turn to my specialty, that is congenital amusia. And until I discover this case, I mean, we are launching his book, Tim Falconer, who is a reporter, next week, actually, at BRAMS. Until I met him, I couldn't believe that this case could enjoy music. But he does. He's really a musicophile. He's listening to music all the time. And while he's tone deaf, as I will show in a moment, he doesn't process music like any other people. But the other tone-deaf people or amusic people are indifferent to music, and even some avoid it actively. But for Tim Falconer, music is a lifelong passion. So this book is really a quest for why did it happen to his brain that he doesn't have it, but loves music so much. So here you will listen to his singing. That the first, I mean, just to show you, he's a reporter and a good writer. It's a pleasure to read. I do recommend the book. But when it comes to music, it's another story. So here he will sing Happy Birthday, first with the lyrics, and then on La La La.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mihaela. Happy birthday to you. La 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 la. That wasn't even close.
And actually, it's funny because we can feel that he's improvising. And he knows he's improvising because he has no idea of what he needs to sing. He has no memory trace, nothing. When he has the words, he can do it. But when he doesn't, it shows the dissociation, clear separation between the lyrics and the melody. When the lyrics are there, then he has a kind of anchor to be able to sing something, but when it disappears, he's not the only case. They are all like that. Actually, most of them cannot even sing on La La La. They just look at us puzzled, saying, oh, how can I do that? I have nothing in my mind. Even when they have to repeat, they just forgot what they have to say. So this is why these cases are so fascinating, because they represent really accident of nature and a natural experiment of the neurobiological basis of music, and also a chance to link brain behavior and genes. I will illustrate that briefly now with you. What we learn with cases like Tim Falconer, very briefly. So these are unexpected failures to develop normal musical capacity despite normal intelligence and normal language. They are unaware of how they sing. They fail to recognize popular tunes, to recognize as well. I mean, if you present the lyrics separately from the tune, they will recognize the lyrics from the song and be able to name it. But when it is the song, only the melody, the tune, they are unable to do it, or have great difficulties. And they have no other deficiencies. That is, it's not associated to any other disorder. It represents 2.5% of the normal population, but that is a statistical criterion. I'll explain in a moment. What I'd like to stress is that this disorder is really a neurodevelopmental problem like dyslexia. That is, it is domain specific, but they are born with that difficulty. So let me illustrate really something that is diagnostic. All of them suffer from this problem. They cannot detect if there is a wrong pitch. That means a pitch that is out of the tonality of the key of the melody, like you will hear and see, obviously, in this video.
I'm going to say that was different. I think there was an extra pause in there.
He really doesn't know.
Same.
You can see on the face that he doesn't hear it. So we test them on different tests, and this is what you heard is the scale test here. And actually, on the rhythm and meter test, he's doing quite well. So it is a dissociation between what affects pitch dimension, that is the melody, the pitch, subtle pitch differences, changes in melodies, while the rhythm and meter is preserved. And this is really how we decide this is amusia. It's just a statistical criterion. We just take the mean, 2 standard deviation below the mean, and of course it corresponds to 2.5%. That's how we do in all, for all pathologies like that, like dyslexia, speech, language speech disorders, language disorders or speech disorders. And as I said, it is relatively spared on time and affecting pitch. And see, there is no overlap between the distribution. Each dot represents one individual, which means that it's really diagnostic. You don't need statistics. So what is the mechanism that is affected? We think it's really it could be acoustical encoding of pitch, but fine grained, because they do perceive pitch differences. For example, the prosody is spared. I mean, they understand the intonation of language. They can produce intonation of language just because these pitch differences are much coarse than the ones we use in music. In music, it is in the order of a semitone. In language, it is in the order of 7 semitones. So it's really larger. So even if you have a problem, you can still perceive and process intonation and prosody correctly, but not music. So this is really in terms of mechanism. But now one question is, of course, even if it's genetic, maybe it's a lack of practice, because these people, when they have a problem, they don't sing too much because they were told not to sing because they were singing out of tune. So Tim Falconer was really on a quest and hired and paid very expensive coach in Toronto, very well known, the best coach he could find. And he attended a singing lesson with him. He really wanted to be able to sing along with other friends, just for the pleasure of it, of course. And he did improve. So what you have here are the words, the singing with words, the singing on la la la, as you remember, that the deviance of the pitch, because he was singing something completely different, but still he was out of pitch with the lyrics as well. After, at the last session of his training, well, he did improve. The intervals are still out, are not really in tune, but it's much better. But we cannot say the same for pitch matching, for example. If we compare his pitch matching, this is Tim Falconer here in black, and if we compare to other musics, he's worse on perception and production, and these are controls, match controls. So if you have the problem, it's very hard to acquire the skill later on in life. Of course, if you are young, being around the age of 7, for children, there is hope. like for dyslexia. I mean, these dyslexic children learn to read, although it is very slowly. In terms of the neural correlates, we know a lot about the neural correlates in that condition. We know, for example, that the right arcuate fasciculus, represented here in red for Tim Falconer, in blue for the controls, is much reduced in amusics. So Tim would be really a typical textbook case for this structure, and it has been illustrated in different studies run by in Harvard and in France. So just to tell you that this condition is now studied in many different labs. We started it, but now many other people are interested in that condition. So at the other extreme, those who don't have it. We had shown in the past, it's hard to see, but that there is less white matter in the brain of amusics in the inferior frontal cortex that is related to performance on the scale test you saw earlier with Tim. We also show that these structures in the right inferior frontal cortex and the right superior temporal cortex, which is the auditory cortex, for those of you who are not familiar with the neurological terms, and these we observed more gray matter, like actually it has been the case in dyslexia, and it is a malformation. I mean, it is a proliferation. It might be. We don't have the proof, but it corresponds to a proliferation of gray matter in those regions that is anomalous. In terms of etiology, we have reasons to suspect that it is hereditary because we studied many families, and we found that 40% of the family members were similarly affected, while in the control families, only 3%, which represent the prevalence of the normal population. But now, this is my best slide, so it's really entertaining. That's the family of Tim Falconer. I mean, it's like a signature. When you ask them to sing with the words, and on La La La, they all sing the same way. I mean, it's really surprising. So this is the mother of Tim. Tim is here. You heard him already. Can you see it? Oh, here. Okay. Now you're going to hear the mother, then a sister, then her son who is affected. What is black is affected. And then the other son who is not affected, to show you that it is not really a question of lack of good exposure or bad exposure when they were growing up. It seems to be really related to the genes. So let me present this.
Elsie Falconer. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear friend. Happy birthday to you. La 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 la.
I'm enjoying it as much as you do, because for me it's a new slide. I prepared it for the launching of the book, imagine. So the sister.
Tony Boland. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear friend. Happy birthday to you. La la la.
No
la,
idea.
La 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 la.
But what is nice, they do improvise. Usually they don't. I mean, they fear to improvise. So that's the son now.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to my friend. Happy birthday to you. La 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 la.
I can't believe it. I mean,
Ned Boland.
That's the right one.
Happy birthday to you.
Whew.
Happy birthday to you. to
That the brother.
you. La 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 la.
Well, that's
La
enough.
la
He's
la
normal,
la la la.
etc. What is, yeah, well, you got the point. So now we have the DNA, so the blood sample of 60 music cases from 22 families, and we are searching for the mutation. We are hoping to find it, but you know, as the slide is illustrating, we have been doing that for 10 years now. So maybe next year, who knows, or in 10 years from now. So now let's turn to what can be musical pleasure to those people. I mean, this is a very peculiar family because they all improvise and it is tonal. That is, it does obey the tonality rules. I could explain why, but this would take me another hour, I think. So let's turn now to the other cases, because theme is, of course, not the only case, and we do analyze the songs note by objective means. I mean, of course, here I'm just illustrating what we find and why it is so interesting and fascinating. But of course, there is a lot of work behind that. And I invite you to read the papers if you are interested. So here, what we have are the responses to a questionnaire, because we did recently studied the emotions and pleasure evoked by music, and we expected, of course, to find vast deficits in that population, really difficulties, except that I knew that it could happen in cases like Tim Falconer, that they really loved music. But for me, he was really an exception. It turns out that on average, musics were really will engage as much as the controls, but there is a huge variability, because 1.2 is really someone who is really fully engaged in musical activities, while here it is avoiding music. So these people who are rating like 4.2 or 3 are really avoiding music. And this is something they describe. Most of them are indifferent. They just don't go. It's boring. It's like listening to a speech in a different language. So we thought, well, they will have a problem to recognize the emotions. I mean, they have problem with pitch. Maybe they can use the tempo, because we knew they can use the temporal dimension. So we tested them with the same clips you heard earlier. And here are the results. So again, each dot represents one individual. You can see that there is only two subjects impaired for the scary and peacefulness clips, while all the others are just normal. So that was a first surprise. They are nearly normal in the recognition of musical emotions. But then we thought, oh, maybe the clips are too easy to process. So we devised error detection in those clips. I will play them for you. It's obvious. I mean, you really need to be deaf not to detect them. So this is one original one first. Got it, I hope. It's really random for one full measure. Well, they got the last one. This is on the dimension of random time, but when there is a pitch shift, as you can see again, we don't need statistics. They are all impaired compared to controls. So they are able to process the emotion while they still have a basic processing impairment to process those clips. So there is nothing special in those clips. For them, it's still difficult to process the pitch information. There must be something else that they are able to pick up. And of course, there are different aspects. So we wanted to isolate what they are able to pick up in the musical clips and what they cannot. We turned to another material that we used in development and in which we manipulated the mode and tempo, because the prediction was quite clear. They should be able to use the tempo, but not the mode. For those of you who don't know music, the basic difference between happy and sad judgments of sad music, I should say, is really turning around one semitone difference between the major and the minor scales or keys. So you will listen to it. So this here is the original one. And on a 10-point scale, from 1 sad to 10 happy, you would go toward the happy end, all right? Now for the tempo, which is neutral. Still major, so it's in between. And for the mode, in this excerpt, we went from major to minor. It is subtle, but you should be able to hear it. If you are normal, it should no longer be at 10. It should be a little less, depending on how you can perceive it. Well, they did as expected. That is, first of all, what was surprising, they were able to do it. So what you have is the controls are in gray, the music are in white. They were able to recognize the happy ones as well. Sad ones, maybe, no, even better, but I mean, one is maybe impaired. When for the tempo, normal, only here, we could find a subtle deficit, which was significant, but it is very small. So they are really able to extract a lot of information from those clips. And it may depend on the task. That is, when you have to judge emotions or to judge if there is an error in the excerpt. And this is illustrating that they really could not, I mean, their responses were really not sensitive to semitone changes, or these are the controls and these are the musics. Again, the mean pitch, same thing, key clarity, same thing, but they were able to use roughness differences and differences in timbre. So I can see I have to go a little further, so I won't present that. So the next question was really related to dissonance, because dissonance is something that is really special to music. It seems to be innate because deaf children don't perceive the difference between consonant dissonant. What it is a semitone difference. So we predicted that a music should have a problem to perceive dissonance. And it seemed to be specific to humans. That is, monkeys don't prefer consonant chords to dissonant ones. Let's see what Tim does, like everybody else, I can tell you. Oops, sorry.
So, like 10 is really pleasant?
Yes.
6?
6 is really average.
Play them louder.
Le volume ici. Le bouton.
So it's again a rating scale from 1 to 10, if it's pleasant or unpleasant. That's an advantage, huh? So, and everyone is responding the same way. So he's not the only one. Here we do find a clear deficit. They don't hear it. So we were able to test theories, and I will not go, I'm sorry, into that. The different theories, the one of Helmholtz, and the one of Stumpf, and we were able to show that it is really beating. So here I have it. It's really, they are deaf to dissonance, but not to beating. So they do hear roughness. It means that Hermor's theory is wrong. It's Stumpf, which is based on inharmonicity. What I want to illustrate here is really briefly that these cases can help us to test theories. But what I would like to illustrate, because it is in a musical hall, is that it is well known to musicians to use dissonance to create actually separation between the voice. Like Pecolisi, it's a very nice illustration of how dissonance can be exploited when you perceive it. But if you don't perceive it, it must be horrible to listen to this kind of music. Let me play it to you. Did you hear any dissonance? Let me illustrate it to you now. Oh, come on. Oh, sorry. No. One. Every single chord or interval is dissonant, but when you now you won't listen the same way because you separate the two. The four voices are separated. And so what you are able to do with that, and they cannot, imagine one, and this is one reason why they are avoiding to listen to an orchestra, for example. For them, it's terrible, all of them, including Tim Falconer said, I mean, he's listening to songs, never to classical music. He pretends he could get some pleasure, but he doesn't listen to it. But it's because it's extremely difficult for them to organize, because some aspects can be really lost, but some aren't, of course. So what have we learned? Well, it's really from musicophilia to musicophobia for the moment. So all these are anomalous responses to musical pleasure. The first take-home message is maybe even a deaf person can enjoy music, but that you knew before. You must have seen clips or people who are deaf, who are dancing to music and enjoying it. So it's not that really you need to perceive everything to be able to enjoy it. For sure, what I've shown you, even if you have impairments in pitch processing, you can still get pleasure. But there is a huge variability. So we did learn a few things. One is the large variability in musical engagement, while they all have deficits. So it's unrelated to perception. It's really variable. It's the music specificity of affective responses. This is really new, that really pleasure can be specific to music, and also emotions can be specific to music, like fear, etc. Even if they are recruiting the same brain structure, the networks is such that it is specific to the domain. Another surprise finding was the fact that we can dissociate the emotions from pleasure. I mean, I showed you that even if they have no pleasure, the first case, the musical anhedonic cases, they do recognize emotions normally, as do the tone-deaf people. They do recognize emotions more or less, not in a subtle way, but they do process emotions. And some get pleasures, most of them don't. So now they are interesting question to be asked. Are there really special brain pathways to musical pleasure from the striatum until the orbitofrontal cortex, the one mentioned this morning by Dr. Zeki? So it might be a disconnection between the right frontotemporal network and the striatum, and that should be easy to study. And also it corresponds to a variable recruitment of maybe the music-specific regions that have been highlighted now in fMRI in normal brain. So I hope I've shown you that by studying breakdown patterns, we can reveal how really pleasure emotional sphere of music is functioning. Of course, I'm not doing all this work alone, and we do have a lot of support in Canada, and I hope you will benefit from the same support here for those who are doing research in the area. So thank you for your attention.
We have time for a couple of questions before we start the panel discussion. There is one question over there.
I can see two. Ah, okay.
Can you see more?
Yeah, two. Yeah.
Now when we are discussing circuits and transmitter systems in the brain, and we know that a very large proportion of the population are on drugs. What is known, for example, on dopamine blocking agents or antidepressant drugs or anticholinergics on our perception or our possibility to enjoy music?
Well, that's part of the idea that music can be served as a medicine, but you know, it's really the beginning. I don't think it's not easy to study the dopamine effect especially in clinical settings, of course, because it requires special equipment like the PET scanner I was illustrating. But the more and more, and I'm pleased to see that music is used in clinical settings. For example, it's a big thing now in the US to, at least for the people who are isolated or demented and are really outside the common world, to be able to have access to an iPod and listen to the music of their cohort generation. And it is used as a music medicine because it's a source of pleasure without side effects, while all the pills that are given to patients have side effects and are not really good for their health. So music is increasingly used as a source of pleasure that is very inexpensive and without side effects. Okay, that's another story. What we know about music with the Parkinson's patients is it might not be the same kind of dopamine effect, although why not? And that's what they are told, is to try to have surprise effects or reward systems that release the dopamine. But what music can bring them is usually the external aid to walk. That is, because of the regular pulse, music is really used to not only to initiate movement, but also to help them to move. And so there are demonstrations of the efficacy, but it's not 100% though. Mm-hmm.
No.
Let's go.
Yeah, he was before.
No? Yeah. Okay, you mentioned fear and a little bit, and going back to those music and hedoniacs, I've met a few, and those with other deaf to dissonance and so. Have you seen that they can perceive hearing music, or when music is played, as they being terrorized, or that they become aggressive
That's what we should do now. We should now see, you know, indirectly. For example, we should bring music anhedonic persons and our cases of congenital amusia to a movie, or to present clips with the right music or wrong music or consistent or discordant, and see if we see different effects. I think they must have their normal effects, that they will perceive discordance in all cases.
Could I just take one short example of this? Sure. I had a friend who believed both A Day in the Life of Beatles and In Between Days of The Cure were highly unsettling and just ran away.
I'm sorry, I didn't...
She believed those two songs were highly unsettling, so she just ran away every time she heard something like that. So that's why.
Okay, she's avoiding those. But what I didn't mention in my presentation, that we have music cases who cannot stand the sound of music. So it's like, you know, noise for them. And of course, we are unable to test them because it's unbearable. They have headaches, they have nausea, so we have to stop, unfortunately, because these cases are the most interesting. The ones who really have this kind of very strong reaction to music, which are really, really tragic for them. So they avoid completely music. So I can imagine that you can have that for specific songs too, for other reasons maybe.
No? No, she's first. No, she was first. I know. I keep track on you. You were first.
Well, I am from Finland, and my question is that you were talking about sad music, happy music, and scaring music, and so on. And when I came to Sweden, I moved to Sweden during 60s. So I remember how because in my culture, so-called sad music, which is sad music in Sweden, was a happy music in Finland. And the opposite, you know. And I mean, I'm thinking of the clients also. Do you have people from different cultures and how they translate the music to their feelings, how it like correspondent to their feelings?
It could be, but you know, I will answer by a study we did scientifically. I'm surprised because I've been in Finland and presenting those data many times. We ran a study in an isolated tribe. I didn't present that. I made a new selection in an isolated tribe in Africa who had never been exposed to our music, and we did present our clips. We dared to do that, and they were above chance to recognize that it was, you know, associated to sadness, happiness, and fear. We didn't use the neutral category. So there must be something there that is universal. And of course, we suspect tempo first, because tempo is not specific to music. I mean, the way you walk, someone can tell if you are depressed or if you are full of life. I mean, it's very, and also in speech, you can infer from the voice, from the speed of the speech, you can infer if it's more happy or sad. What we are manipulating here are more subtle things that are associated sometimes to some cultures, like the tonality, for example, which is really associated to Western music. But Western music is everywhere now. Okay. So. Mm-hmm.
I think we have the last question now. Yes. No, she was first.
Yeah. I'm just kidding.
You can tell.
Oh, Canada. Thank you. I was just thinking, I grew up in Mölnlycke, where a lot of Finnish people came to Mölnlycke factories, and all of them are my friends. And I was just thinking, maybe it's just that we are scared of the feeling that you go to togetherness for. If you're thinking about the Finnish tango, for example, it's like almost like the Portugal fado, and it's something that we are trying to not
share,
not feel that feeling, here in
Yeah,
Sweden.
no.
If you, I should be prejudiced just for a second. Sorry.
No, no.
Hello,
it has
Canada.
Been,
I love
it has
you.
been said. It has been said that it is a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
That sometimes for morning,
Yeah.
morning songs are just happy, not because they feel that way, but they'd like to.
Yeah.
And they sing that together.
Yeah.
So it's well known
Yes.
by musicologists.
Yes.
Yes.
So now to my question. You know, there's been this common research knowledge, like that has even reached me. I'm not a scientist. That dancing with music, like number one, music, number two, dancing, and the whole brain becomes a flowery garden. That's how they wrote it
very
to
nice.
us, you know, us that just read the popular scientific magazines. And I was just thinking, your tone deaf people here, are they, what would happen, have you ever tried, like how, can they feel the beat? Can they dance? What
Yeah,
would happen to their brains then?
We have done everything, so you can
Okay.
ask whatever.
Yeah, when they dance to the rhythm, what happens in their
Well,
brain?
first of all, most of them don't dance, like they don't sing, because they think they don't have it. And we were able to train one of them, and she was able to dance. She dared to dance. It's like singing. They don't sing, but they can. I mean, they are able to sing. They don't sing correctly, but they are able to enjoy it. Same thing for dancing. But dancing, they can follow the beat. So if the beat is very clear, they can do it.
And what happens with their brain then? What happens? Is
To
it
the
more
brain-
lit up? Is it more lit up? You know,
Well,
is it more flowery?
Well, that's complicated because it will require more to explain, because their brain is responding a lot.
Thank you
I
so
think
much.
yeah, thank you very much for all the questions. I'm rushing a little bit because we are running out of time for the panel. So thanks once more. I have a small gift for you. Thank you.